The parking lot lights hummed like tiny moons above the glass tower, and a small barefoot girl ran toward the rows of parked bikes, crying so hard her words broke in the air. "Please help my mommy. They're hurting her," she shouted, voice shaking like a loose window in a storm. Oil shimmered on the pavement. Engines ticked as they cooled. A tall rider with a square jaw pulled off his helmet. He looked at the child and then at the gleaming building across the street where a top floor burned warm like a furnace. For a breath, everything went still, the bikes, the riders, the night. Then the girl gulped air and pointed up to the penthouse. "He hits my mom," she sobbed. "Please. If this is your first time here, smash the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from tonight?" We read every single one. Now hold your breath, because what happened next felt like a door opening straight into a storm. That night had started with a whisper of hope. The janitor, Laura Reed, age 28, tied her hair in a simple bun and tucked a folded paper into her shirt pocket before her shift. On that paper she had written 4 lines: rent, shoes for Mia, bus pass, one good day. She smiled at the 5th thing she didn't write, a miracle, because saying it out loud made it feel silly. The building where she worked rose 40 floors in blue glass, a mirror for the sky by day and a lantern by night. Inside, hallways smelled like lemon cleaner and money. Laura walked those halls with quiet steps and quick eyes, working faster than her pay, humming a church chorus under her breath. "Hold me steady, Lord. Hold me steady." She had learned to keep her head down to avoid the sharp glance of the owner, a man whose name made the rest of the staff speak in low tones. Connor Hale, age 52, rich enough to buy time and sell fear. On the ground floor, little Mia Reed, age 5, waited in a staff lounge with her coloring book. Her shoes had fresh tape on the toes. She wore a neat blue dress, the cotton smooth but thin, and she kept asking what time it was even though she couldn't tell time yet. Laura's friend at the front desk, an older guard named Mr. Clay, told her funny stories about a dog that learned to ride a skateboard. "Skate dogs are the future," he said, and Mia laughed and tried to draw wheels on a stick puppy. Every half hour, Laura visited the lounge to kiss her daughter's forehead, then hurried back to mop, soak, shine, and sweep. She was small, strong, and careful. She counted every step, every rag, every minute left until home. By evening, the tower filled with people who wore suits like armor. The elevator dinged inside. Laughter rose from a party upstairs, crystal, piano, polished shoes. Laura's cart squeaked past a wall of framed awards, Hale Group, building the future. She didn't look up. She turned into a service corridor where the air was quiet and cool, and cleaned the brass along a private door. A soft chime sounded. The door swung open. Connor Hale stood there in a white shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled back. His smile was the kind that is almost a frown. "Spill," he said, and pointed at a dark spot on the carpet beyond the threshold. "You missed it yesterday." Laura folded her hands to keep them from shaking. "I can clean it now, sir." She wheeled the cart inside, bent to spray and blot, and felt his eyes on her like heat from a lamp. He liked to stand too close. He liked to give orders that sounded like warnings. "Faster," he said. "You people never learn speed." She swallowed her reply. "You people?" Because replies are expensive when paychecks are small. She worked faster. Downstairs, the riders of the Stonebridge crew parked in a neat line. Their leather jackets were scuffed but clean, their helmets shining like black apples under the light. They were not troublemakers, though people often judged the ink on their arms and the growl of their engines. They were a family made on the road, mechanics, cooks, a nurse, a teacher, and their leader, a 33-year-old man named Zack Lawson, who smiled without showing his teeth and listened before he spoke. He had grease under his fingernails from fixing a stranger's flat tire that afternoon. He had an old scar across his knuckle from long ago and a promise in his chest. "If I am there when somebody needs help, I will not look away." They had chosen the gas station across from the tower to rest and sip sodas, because the bench there caught a cool breeze and the night sound was kind. Upstairs the party slowed. Guests drifted toward the elevator with soft goodnights and loud plans. When the doors closed, Connor Hale poured himself a drink he did not need. Laura stood near the window with her empty bin, waiting to be dismissed. "There," she said. "The stain is gone." He tapped the glass with his ring and watched the city blink. "You should be grateful," he said. "Most people like you don't get this chance." She knew the pattern. He would praise himself, then point out small errors, then accuse her of not caring enough, then, if she argued, he would turn yellow and cruel. She nodded, kept her head low, and made herself invisible. "My daughter is downstairs," she whispered when a breath might be allowed. "May I clock out a little early? She's tired." He turned and looked at her as if her words were noise from a vent. "No," he said. "Finish the top floor. And don't touch the piano." He walked away. Her stomach tightened. It was late. Mia needed sleep. Laura closed her eyes for 1 second, one quick prayer. "Please God, make him kind or make me brave." She finished the hallway and reached the grand room with the black piano and the white rug. The city below looked like a spill of diamonds. She moved to dust the low tables around the piano but did not touch the keys, because rules are lines you don't cross when hungry. Quiet feet, small breath, careful hands. She turned to go. Behind her, a glass clinked. "I said the top floor," Connor said. "You cut corners?" He stepped closer than necessary. She smelled smoke and something sharper. "No, sir." Then the bookshelves, the balcony, the glass. He slapped the feather duster from her hand, and the soft thing hit the rug like a small bird. "Don't tell me already. Do what I say. I own this building. I own your time." On most nights, she would have been silent and still and waited for him to wave her away like dust. But tonight, tired and late, she remembered Mia's taped shoes and something in her rose up. "I am not your property, sir," she said quietly. "Please speak with respect." It was a small sentence. It was also a match. He grabbed her arm. It hurt. "Watch your mouth." She took a slow breath and did not move. "Let me go," she said. He squeezed harder. The pain flashed to her fingers. "Say you're sorry," he said. "I am sorry you feel angry," she whispered, "but I did my work. Please let me go. My child is waiting." In the staff lounge, Mr. Clay checked the clock. He rubbed his knee and told Mia about a cat that could open doors. When Laura did not return by the next half hour, Mia frowned, closed her book and slid off the chair. The room felt too big without her mother's laugh. She walked to the service elevator and pressed a button she was not allowed to press. The door stayed closed. She tried the main elevator and looked up at the numbers as they blinked. They moved so slowly. Her heart beat like tiny feet running. She looked at the glass doors of the lobby where the city glowed. She looked at the guard's desk where Mr. Clay argued with a delivery person about a name on a clipboard. The air was cold. She remembered the night her mother said, "If I don't come back on time, find someone safe. Look for a helper." Who is safe? Mia thought. People on bikes look strong. Maybe strong can be safe. She slipped through the revolving door and out into the night. On the penthouse floor, the sharp moment cracked. Connor's hand left a red band around Laura's arm. She tried to step to the side, just a small slide toward the hallway, but he blocked her path and pushed her shoulder. She stumbled and caught herself on the edge of the piano, not the keys, the wood, a careful touch because even in fear she respected things that did not belong to her. "Don't make me repeat myself," he said, voice even, which is worse than shouting. Two house managers stood in the doorway, one with an empty tray, one with a phone held low. Their eyes were wide and quiet. They looked at the floor because this was the game. See and pretend not to. Laura met their eyes anyway. "Please," she said to them, "just help me go downstairs." The one with the phone shifted his feet. "Sir," he murmured. Connor's eyelid twitched. "Out," he said. They left. The door clicked. The room felt like a huge mouth holding its breath. Mia ran as if the earth tilted. The gas station across the street buzzed softly, green and white lights humming above the soda coolers. The riders were there, lined up, sitting on their bikes or leaning against them, talking about small things, breaks, coffee, a dog that followed them for 2 miles and then decided home was better. Zack was telling a story about his little sister's first bicycle when they saw the child in the blue dress. She ran across the lane with her arms stiff and her eyes too big. She tripped, stood, tripped again and kept going like a bird that didn't know how to land. "Hey," Zack called, stepping forward, taking off his helmet. "Are you okay?" The child made a sound that was not a word. She pointed at the tower and pulled at his sleeve. "Please," she managed. "He hits my mom." That moved everyone at once. The crew stood. Someone swore, soft and shocked. The nurse, a short woman named Dana Brooks, reached for the girl's hand and crouched. "Where is she?" Dana asked. "Up there," Mia said, and the word broke in the middle. Zack looked across the street at the tower, at the lobby with its gold-lit doors and its guard who liked to smile. He had never walked into that building. He fixed cars in a shop where the rent was late but the coffee was perfect. He had told himself once that rich towers were for other people and he was fine with his piece of the sky. Now the tower felt like a machine that swallowed mothers. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mia," she said. "I'm Zack." He glanced at the others. They nodded. It was not a question. They moved like a small army of kindness, calm, quick, ready. You're safe with us, Dana told the child, and lifted her onto the back of her bike so Mia could sit without standing in the road. Zack pointed to two riders, a big man named Bruce and a careful man named Adam. You come with me. He pointed to two more, a tall teacher named Nate and a quiet cook named Joel. You check the lobby for cameras and ask the guard for help. He looked at Dana. Keep the girl with you no matter what. Dana nodded and took off her jacket and wrapped it around Mia's shoulders. Upstairs, Connor's voice slid from cool to cutting. Understand this, he said. You work because I let you work. Laura stood very straight and felt the floor under her shoes and the breath moving in and out of her body like waves. She thought of Mia practicing a song that morning, a song about courage that had only 3 notes but felt big. She thought of her church friend who told her that God does not leave small hearts alone in big rooms. She thought of the paper in her pocket with 4 lines and the 5th she did not write. I understand, she said quietly, but I need to leave now. My child is downstairs. She took 1 step to the side. He stepped with her. He put his hand on her shoulder again. She flinched. He squeezed. Say you're sorry, he said. Say you're grateful. Footsteps sounded in the hall. The door opened without a knock. A breath of cooler air entered before the words did. Sir, a house manager said, urgent now, there are bikers in the lobby. A little girl is with them, crying. The room changed shape. Connor's grip tightened. He looked toward the doorway with a face that was half anger, half calculation. The lobby doors slid open on their silent tracks. Mr. Clay rose when he saw the riders, because leather in a lobby usually means a problem. Evening, he said, hands raised, trying to make peace with his voice. We need help, Zack said, not loud, not angry, just clear. A child says her mother is being hurt upstairs. Mr. Clay's eyebrows moved up and then together. He looked down at Mia in Dana's jacket. Is that true, little one? She nodded, eyes wet, teeth in her lip. Who is your mother? Laura. Last name? Reed. Mr. Clay's face softened. He had watched that child draw dogs for an hour and a half. He had held doors for that mother as she hurried between floors. I believe you, he said. He pressed a button on the desk phone and spoke to the house line. No one answered. Elevator key, he muttered and reached under the counter. His hand paused. He had rules. He had a job. He had a memory of his own son and of a night when a stranger helped them. He took the key and handed it to Zack. Top floor, he said. My camera sees everything, and if anyone asks, I saw a little girl ask for help and I did the right thing. Zack nodded once because sometimes thank you is a promise, not a word. The private elevator hummed like a held breath. Inside, mirrors made the small group look like an army. Mia held Dana's hand, small fingers wrapped tight, and watched the numbers climb. Does it hurt when someone gets in trouble? She asked, voice thin. Dana swallowed. It hurts when someone is unkind, she said. But good people help stop it. That helps the hurt. The elevator slid to a stop. The doors whispered open. A hallway stretched, white and long, with art that looked like clouds and boxes. At the far end, 2 house managers stood with faces like folded paper. You can't be here, one said, then saw the child and faltered. She says her mother is hurt, Zack said. Where is she? Before the man could answer, a sound came from the grand room that did not sound like music. It was the sound of a word held too long finally breaking. Mom? Mia pulled free and ran. Connor let go when the door opened because hands tell stories you don't want on camera. You people and your drama? He hissed, but lower this time. He smoothed his sleeve and stepped back. Laura stumbled, then straightened. The riders filled the doorway like a dark border around a bright page. Zack stepped in and put himself between Laura and the billionaire without shoving or shouting. He let his body speak first. You can look at me. You cannot step through me. Is this your mother? He asked, looking at Mia. She nodded and hugged Laura's waist so tightly that Laura had to place a hand on the back of the little head to make sure the hug did not become a bruise. Sir, Zack said to Connor, we're leaving. The child asked for help. Connor laughed, a small, flat sound. This is a private residence. You're trespassing. This is a woman, Zack said, and that is a child. We do not walk away. His voice stayed calm. Calm is heavy. It sits in the room and changes where the air can go. Laura held Mia and felt her heartbeat slow just enough to think. She could see the shadow of the piano on the rug. She could see the paper poking from her shirt pocket. She could see the leaders of 2 worlds facing each other in a room made for parties. She did not want to fight. She did not want to bleed. She wanted to walk out and never bring her child back to this building again. I just need to clock out, she said to the room, to the air, to God. I just need to go home. Connor pointed to the door like a king granting mercy. Clock out, he said. But first you sign a note saying you were rude, you broke rules, and you accept a pay cut for the month. He held up a paper from the desk, a paper that looked official and smelled like a trap. Do it or I press charges for trespass and theft. Choose. His eyes cut to the camera in the corner and then back. He thought he was winning. He often did. Zack turned his head just enough to meet Laura's eyes. You don't have to sign anything, he said, still quiet. Dana moved to the side to stand with the house managers and lower the fear in the room by the way she breathed. The big rider, Bruce, stepped backward to keep the doorway open. The careful rider, Adam, took out his phone and opened a recording app. Mr. Clay, below, watched the feed on his monitor and picked up his own phone to call a number he saved for nights when the rules and what is right did not agree. Officer Lane, he said. It's Clay at Stonebridge Tower. I think you should come. Mia let go of her mother and did a small thing that mattered. She walked up to the rich man who made rooms feel unsafe and said in a soft voice that still shook, My mom is not a bad person. She did not shout. She did not beg. She told the truth like a child holds a candle. Connor looked at the candle and, for the shortest half-second, blinked. A blink is not a change, but it is space where a change could fit. When he opened his eyes, he tried to smile. It looked wrong on his face. Sweetheart, he said, you don't understand how jobs work. Mia looked at Zack and then at Dana, and then she did the second smart thing of the night. She stopped talking to the person who did not want to understand and turned back to the people who did. She wrapped her arms around her mother again and pressed her cheek against the red mark on Laura's arm as if her small skin could erase it. Here's what happens now, Zack said, calm as a field in the morning. We walk out. If you touch her again, you answer to us and to the law. Connor's jaw worked, grinding some thought into something he could swallow. You think leather and noise make you the law? He said. I blink and you disappear. We are not leather and noise, Zack said. We are people. The house manager with the phone moved closer to Dana. Sir, he whispered to Connor, maybe let them go. Connor's eyes flicked to the camera again, to the red light that sees everything. He set the paper on the desk. He rubbed his ring. Fine, he said at last, voice like ice in a glass. Leave. And don't come back. It felt like a trap inside a trick inside a test. Laura took Mia's hand. The riders formed a simple shield with their bodies, a kindness wall. They moved toward the door. Steps soft. Breath held. When they reached the hallway, a bell sounded. Not the elevator. A sharper bell. An alarm line. The lights in the hallway dimmed and then glowed. A lock clicked. What did you do? Bruce asked, turning. The house manager stared at his shoes. Emergency lockdown, he said, voice small. Someone pushed a button. Connor stood in the doorway with a remote in his hand and a smile that finally found his face. You're not going anywhere until you sign, he said, all smooth now, as if he had practiced that line in a mirror. I like my papers neat. The elevator at the far end flashed a red X. The stairwell door showed a tiny red eye. Mia tightened her grip on Laura's fingers. Somewhere below, a phone rang on Officer Lane's desk. The riders did not run. They stood closer. Adam's phone kept recording. Dana moved Mia behind her legs and whispered, breathe with me. Laura touched the paper in her pocket like a talisman. Felt so thin. She thought of the fifth line she had not written. She thought of the word she was afraid to say, miracle. Sometimes a miracle is not a light in the sky. Sometimes it is a lock clicking open right when it is supposed to be locked, or a camera catching exactly what it must catch, or a guard choosing right over rules. The hallway held its breath again. The remote in Connor's hand clicked once more. The red X on the elevator blinked. The doors slid open by themselves as if the building disagreed with its owner. Connor's smile twitched. He pressed the button again. Nothing. From the far end of the hall came the clear, simple sound of shoes on tile and a voice calling up the corridor, strong and steady, police. Hands where I can see them. Connor turned, a fast turn that said surprise, not guilt, and the riders looked for the blue uniform like it was a rising sun, and Mia whispered, God, thank you, and Laura shut her eyes for one extra breath and then opened them. But before any of them could move, the remote blinked, the lights dimmed to a soft amber, and from the grand room behind Connor came a second voice none of them expected. A voice they all knew from the party earlier, but warmer now, human now, not dressed in crystal. Mr. Hale, the voice said, I think we need to talk about what I just saw on your security feed. Everyone turned at once, and the hallway felt like a tightrope high above the city, and the next step would decide who fell and who finally walked free. The hallway blazed with amber light and noise as Officer Lane stepped in with his partner, the kind of entrance that made even rich walls remember their manners. "Hands visible," Lane said firmly. Connor Hale raised one hand halfway, the other still gripping the remote that locked the doors. The riders froze, protective instinct strong but not reckless. Zack knew better than to challenge a cop's command in a rich man's home. Laura, trembling but standing tall, gathered Mia close and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart." She didn't believe it yet, but sometimes faith means saying safety before it arrives. Lane scanned the room, his sharp eyes taking in the bruised arm, the cowering staff, the defiant billionaire, and the silent witnesses. "What's going on here?" he asked, voice flat like steel. "Domestic report," Mr. Clay said over the radio from the lobby. "A child ran down crying. Says her mother's being hurt. I called it in." Lane turned to Laura. "Ma'am, are you injured?" Hesitated, ashamed and tired. He grabbed me. "Just my arm. I was trying to leave." Lane stepped forward. "You want to press charges?" She swallowed. Connor interrupted, voice dripping power. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. She's an employee. I disciplined her for insubordination. That's all." Lane's jaw clenched. "Discipline doesn't leave handprints," he said quietly. Zack moved subtly between Connor and Laura, his shoulders steady. "She's been hit more than once." The girl said it's not the first time. Connor turned on him, sneering. "And who are you? Street trash with engines?" Zack didn't flinch. "People who don't stand by while someone's being hurt." Lane shot Zack a warning look to stay calm, then turned to the billionaire. "Sir, step back." Connor's nostrils flared. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "No," Lane replied, "and I don't care." "Step back." It was the kind of tone that peeled titles off like stickers. Connor obeyed halfway, enough to save face, not enough to admit fear. Mia, still clutching her mother's sleeve, whispered, "Mommy, are we going home now?" Her voice cracked like a small bell in the storm. Laura crouched to meet her eyes. "Soon, baby. Soon." Behind her, Dana checked the red marks on Laura's arm with practiced care. "You're lucky it's just bruised," she murmured. "Could have been worse." Laura nodded. "It's been worse before," she whispered, and that single sentence made Zack's stomach twist. Lane gestured to his partner, Officer Hill, to collect statements. Connor laughed quietly, the sound rang in the air. "You're really going to believe the help over me?" he asked. "You know how many people would give anything to work in this building?" Lane raised an eyebrow. "Maybe they shouldn't have to get hit for it." "I didn't hit her," Connor barked. "I touched her arm." Lane's radio crackled. Mr. Clay's voice came again. "Got security feed ready if you need it?" "Play it," Lane said. On the lobby screen and the officers' tablets, the footage rolled, Connor advancing, Laura stumbling, his hand clamping down. The soundless images spoke louder than any speech. Connor's face drained of color. "Out of context," he stammered. "She provoked me." Lane paused the clip and stared straight at him. "That's assault." "No, it's not," Connor snapped. "She's an employee. And you're a man with too much anger," Zack said softly. Lane motioned to Hill. "Cuff him." Connor's eyes went wide. "You can't." "I can," Lane interrupted, "and I am." The metallic click of cuffs echoed like justice finding its voice. Laura trembled, half in disbelief, half in fear of what came next. "It's okay," Zack whispered. "You're safe now." But her heart knew safety doesn't come that easily. Rich men have lawyers. Poor women have long nights. As Connor was led toward the elevator, he twisted around. "You'll regret this," he spat at Laura. "You think they'll save you? You'll crawl back." Lane shoved him forward. "Keep walking." The elevator doors closed, and the silence that followed felt almost holy. Laura sank to her knees. The strength she had held for hours finally broke. She pressed her forehead to Mia's curls and cried, not loud, just soft and long like a tired prayer. Mia wiped her mother's tears with tiny hands. "You're not bad, Mommy. You're brave." Zack crouched beside them. "You both are." Dana exhaled, shaky. "Come on, let's get you somewhere warm." Downstairs, Mr. Clay held the door open as they exited. The night air met them like a blessing. Streetlights flickered on wet pavement. The riders stood around their bikes, waiting quietly. Zack nodded toward a van. "We'll take you home. You're not alone tonight." Laura hesitated. "I don't want to be trouble." Zack shook his head. "You're not trouble. You're the reason people like us keep moving." They rode through the city under blinking lights. Mia, half asleep in Laura's lap, murmured, "It's pretty." Laura brushed her hair gently. It's God's way of showing us light still works, even in dirty places. The road turned quiet except for the steady hum of engines and the soft whistle of wind. For a moment it felt like peace. Zack parked outside a modest apartment block with peeling paint and a busted gate. "You live here?" he asked softly. Laura nodded. "Top floor. No elevator. We'll walk you up." "You don't have to, we want to." The riders carried her cleaning supplies and Mia's backpack upstairs. Inside, the apartment smelled of lavender soap and old paint. One small couch, one table, two plates. "Home sweet home," Laura whispered with tired pride. Dana looked around. "You've done wonders with this place." "It's all I can afford," Laura said. Zack leaned against the doorway. "You shouldn't have to do it all alone." Laura smiled faintly. "I've been alone a long time." "Not anymore," Zack replied quietly. "We've got a community center by the workshop. Hot meals every night, childcare on weekends. Come by." She hesitated. "I don't know if I fit in." "You do," he said simply. That night, after the riders left, Laura sat by the window with Mia asleep beside her. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance, then faded. The city looked gentler somehow. She uncrumpled the paper from her pocket. Rent. Shoes for Mia. Bus pass. One good day. She smiled through tears and wrote the fifth line she had always left blank. A miracle happened. At dawn, someone knocked. It was Zack with a small box. "Sorry for coming early," he said. "We brought breakfast." Inside the box, 2 sandwiches, a note, and an envelope with some bills. "No," Laura began. "I can't. It's not charity," he said. "It's family helping family." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Zack said. "Thank your little girl. She saved you." As they ate, Mia woke and smiled shyly at Zack. "Will my mommy be happy now?" "She already is," Zack said. "And we'll make sure it stays that way." The sun caught the edge of the window and lit up their faces. For the first time in years, Laura didn't feel like the world was closing in. She felt it opening, soft and wide. But peace never comes without a shadow. That same morning, in a luxury holding cell, Connor Hale sat with his lawyer, fuming. "They can't keep me," he muttered. "I'll destroy them all. The janitor, the bikers, the cop." His lawyer frowned. "Sir, the footage is clear." "I'll buy another judge," Connor snapped. "Money still talks." And he was right about one thing. Money talks. But so do witnesses and hearts that refuse to stay silent. Meanwhile, back in the small apartment, Laura opened the window. She breathed in the morning air and whispered, "God, if you brought us this far, don't let me go back." Down the street, the sound of motorcycles revving rose like a promise. She smiled. "Mia," she said softly, "we're going to be okay." The little girl stirred, half asleep, and mumbled, "Because the bikers came?" Laura laughed quietly, the sound lighter than it had been in years. "Because kindness did." But she didn't know. Miles away, Connor Hale's revenge had already begun to move, slow and deliberate, like a storm gathering beyond the skyline. And when it came, it would test every bit of faith she had just found. The sound of freedom that night didn't last long. By sunrise, the story had already spread through every corner of the city. Billionaire arrested for assaulting janitor. It ran on morning radio like wildfire. Laura Reed's name was not mentioned yet, but everyone in the glass tower knew. She sat on her couch, still in her cleaning uniform, eyes swollen from tears and sleeplessness, as the TV in the corner flickered with the news. Mia was drawing beside her, humming softly, innocent to the storm outside. The morning light touched the bruises on Laura's arm like quiet proof of the night before. There was a knock. It wasn't Zack this time. It was a woman in a navy blazer, kind face, clipboard in hand. "Good morning, Ms. Reed," she said gently. "I'm Officer Lane's colleague, Social Services. We just need to make sure you and your daughter are safe." Laura nodded, letting her in. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Palmer, looked around the small apartment and smiled kindly at Mia. "Sweetheart, you're brave," she said. Mia smiled shyly and held up her picture, a stick-figure woman and child holding hands. "That's me and Mommy," she said. "And that's the angel with a bike that helped us." Mrs. Palmer chuckled softly. "That's a very good angel." Then her face turned serious as she turned back to Laura. "Connor Hale has already posted bail. But the restraining order is in effect. He's not allowed within 200 feet of you or your daughter." Laura swallowed hard. "He's rich," she whispered. "He doesn't follow rules." Mrs. Palmer nodded. "That's why you'll have police supervision for the next few days. Officer Lane and his partner will check on you. Laura thanked her and closed the door when she left, leaning her forehead against the wood. He's free, she whispered. Already. Her voice shook, fear creeping in like cold air. Mia tugged her sleeve. Mommy, we can hide at the biker's place. Laura smiled sadly. We can't live in a garage, baby. But inside, she wondered if maybe they should have gone. Across town, in a marble office, Connor Hale stood by his lawyer's desk, anger boiling beneath the surface. They humiliated me, he said. That janitor and her little stunt. I want everything on her, background, debts, any mistake she's ever made. His lawyer hesitated. Sir, it's risky. The public eye is on you. Connor slammed his fist on the desk. I don't care. She cost me my name. She'll pay for it. He turned to the window, watching the reflection of his empire, a man too rich to be wrong. Get it done quietly, he said. Make her look like the liar she is. At that same hour, Zack and the writers gathered in their workshop behind a row of old warehouses. The smell of oil and coffee mixed in the air. Dana flipped through the newspaper with a frown. He's out, she said. Of course he's out. Bruce grunted. Money never stays locked up. Zack stood by the workbench, his jaw tight. Then we stay close. That woman risked everything. We don't let him undo it. Adam checked his phone. There's talk online already. People saying she made it up for attention. Some fake accounts defending him. Zack's voice dropped low. That's his team. He's starting the smear. They decided to protect her in silence. Zack took his bike keys and told the crew, we do it quietly. No fights. No noise. Just eyes. He rode to Laura's apartment, parked a few blocks away, and watched from his helmet's reflection. Laura appeared on the balcony, hanging a tiny shirt on a line, her movements small and careful. For a moment, Zack wondered how someone so gentle had survived so much cruelty. By afternoon, a black car pulled up outside the building. Two men in suits stepped out, holding clipboards and fake smiles. They knocked on her door. Ms. Reed, one called. We're from Hale Enterprises. We'd like to resolve this privately. Laura froze, her blood running cold. She whispered a prayer, then cracked the door an inch. I don't work for him anymore, she said. Leave. The taller man smiled. You'll want to hear this. He's offering you 6 months' salary to withdraw your statement. Laura's heart pounded. No, she said firmly. I don't want his money. You sure? The man said. Because the news won't stay quiet. People will talk. Might not be good for your daughter. Her hand trembled on the knob. Did you just threaten my child? She asked. We're offering peace, he replied. Take it. Before she could answer, a voice from down the hallway echoed like thunder. She said no. The men turned. Zack stood at the stairwell, arms folded, helmet in hand, eyes burning steady. Get lost. The shorter man chuckled. This isn't your business. Zack took a step closer. It is now. The men exchanged a look, then backed away. This isn't over, one hissed. It never is, Zack replied. They left. Laura exhaled shakily. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. He'll come after you next. Zack smiled faintly. Let him try. That night, as the rain started to fall, Laura packed a small bag with essentials, clothes, documents, Mia's drawings. We can't stay here, she said softly. Just for a few days until it's quiet. She didn't want to live in fear, but she knew better than to trust silence. They left quietly through the back door, walking under one umbrella toward Zack's garage. When they arrived, Dana and the others were already waiting. The workshop was warm with light and laughter. A pot of soup simmered on a stove in the corner. Welcome home, Dana said gently. Mia smiled. It smells like chicken. Everyone laughed, the kind of laugh that breaks tension. Zack cleared a space for them in the back office, a small room with a couch, a blanket, and a lamp. You can stay here till you feel safe, he said. Laura blinked back tears. I don't know how to thank you. Just breathe, Zack said. That's enough. Days turned into weeks. Laura began helping around the garage, cleaning tools, making tea, organizing shelves. Mia became everyone's little sister, painting stickers on helmets, learning to braid Dana's hair. For the first time in years, Laura felt something like family. But one evening, as Zack worked under a bike, a black SUV stopped outside. A camera flash burst from the shadows. Reporters, Adam said. They found us. Within hours, tabloids online screamed headlines. Biker gang hiding fraudulent maid, claims billionaire beat her. Photos of Laura and Mia flooded the internet, her face blurred but her pain clear. She read the comments until her chest ached. "They're calling me a liar," she whispered. Zack took the phone gently from her hands. "Don't read that. You know the truth." "But the world doesn't," she said. The next morning, Officer Lane arrived, grim-faced. "Connor's lawyers filed a defamation countersuit," he said. "He's claiming you attacked him first. He wants damages." Laura's eyes widened. "What? That's not true." "I know," Lane said. "But he's powerful. We'll need a statement and maybe a lawyer," she finished weakly. "I can't afford one." Zack stepped forward. "Then she'll have one. I'll find someone." He did. By evening, he tracked down a woman named Rachel Moore, a young attorney known for taking impossible cases pro bono. She walked into the garage in jeans and sneakers, carrying a single folder. "You must be Laura," she said, shaking her hand firmly. "I read your report. You've got more truth on your side than money on his, but that's enough if we do this right." Laura smiled faintly. "Thank you for helping me." Rachel grinned. "Helping you helps everyone who can't afford to fight people like him." Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Connor watched the online chaos with a smirk. "They'll eat her alive," he told his assistant. "By the time this is done, no one will believe her. And when she crawls back for work, I'll decide if she gets it." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, there's talk of investors pulling out. The board's nervous." "Then remind them who made them rich," Connor snapped. But when he turned back to the window for the first time, the city didn't seem to shine for him. It watched. At the hearing 2 weeks later, Laura walked into court holding Mia's hand, wearing a simple blue dress, clean, pressed, humble. Connor sat across the room in a navy suit, polished and smug. Cameras flashed outside. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, looked over the case file. "Mr. Hale," she said, "you claim self-defense?" "Yes, Your Honor," Connor replied smoothly. The employee became aggressive. Rachel rose. "We have video evidence, Your Honor. The assault was recorded." Connor's lawyer objected, but the judge raised a hand. "Overruled. Proceed." The video played again, the same one Officer Lane had shown. Silence filled the room except for the soft sound of Laura's breath shaking. When it ended, the judge turned back to Connor. "Do you wish to amend your statement?" He didn't answer. His jaw twitched. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed, shouting questions. Mia hid behind Zack's leg. "Why are they yelling?" she asked. "Because they don't know peace yet," Zack said softly. The judge adjourned the case to allow further review, but as they left, Rachel smiled. "He's losing control. You just keep standing tall." Laura nodded, though fear still gnawed at her. She looked at Zack and whispered, "Do you really think justice works?" "Sometimes," he said, "but when it doesn't, faith does." That night, the garage lights stayed on late. Laura sat with Zack under the soft hum of a bulb, watching Mia sleep on the couch. "I keep thinking of that night," she said quietly. "How close I was to breaking. If Mia hadn't run," her voice broke. Zack reached over and rested a hand gently on hers. "You didn't break. You bent. That's different." She smiled faintly. "Why are you helping us, Zack? You barely knew me." He looked away for a moment, then said softly, "Because my mom once needed help too, and no one came." Outside, thunder rumbled over the city, low and steady. In the distance, another headline began to form, one that would change everything. Someone had leaked footage of Connor's past, a video showing his violence toward a former assistant years ago, covered up with money. The truth was coming for him faster than even his wealth could stop. But he wasn't done fighting. Not yet. Because in a dim corner of his office, he whispered into the phone, "If they want war, I'll give it to them." And for Laura and Mia, the next storm would test not just their courage, but their faith that light can still break through even the darkest night. The first real morning of peace didn't feel like peace at all. Laura Reed woke up to sunlight streaming across the garage window, the hum of engines outside, and the low murmur of Zack's voice on the phone. The smell of breakfast, eggs and instant coffee, drifted through the air, but her chest still carried the weight of the courtroom, the cameras, the whispers, the humiliation that money buys. Mia was drawing again on a piece of cardboard, humming a soft song she had learned from the church daycare Zack's crew took her to. "Mommy, look," she said proudly. "It's you, me, and Uncle Zack on the big bike." Laura smiled faintly and kissed her forehead. "It's beautiful, baby." But her eyes flicked toward Zack, who had gone quiet on the phone. He ended the call, face tight. "That was Rachel," he said. "Connor's lawyers filed an appeal against the restraining order. He's trying to lift it." Laura's breath caught. "So he can come near me again?" Zack nodded slowly. He's desperate. He's losing his investors. He's going to fight dirty. She sat down hard on the couch. I don't want Mia to grow up hiding, she whispered. We won't hide, Zack said firmly. But we'll be smart. Rachel's filing for a counter-motion and a full protection order. Officer Lane's already on it. Mia looked up from her drawing. Are we moving again? No, baby, Laura said gently. We're just making sure the bad man stays far away. Mia nodded, then added a little police officer to her drawing, standing between them and the scary tower she had drawn in the background. Across the city, Connor Hale's world was unraveling faster than he could by silence. His office, once filled with sleek trophies and glowing screens, now buzzed with tension. 2 board members whispered by the window. His phone rang every 10 minutes, lawyers, reporters, investors demanding answers. He stared at the headlines scrolling across his tablet. Billionaire faces abuse allegations, former employees speak out, hidden recordings leak online. Someone had found the footage of his old assistant crying in the lobby years ago. He smashed the tablet against the desk. Find out who leaked it, he roared. His assistant, pale and trembling, stammered, Sir, it might have been one of the former staff members you settled with. Connor's lips thinned. Then find her. Silence her. I don't care how. That night, the riders met in the back of Zack's garage. The lights flickered, casting long shadows across the floor. He's cornered, Bruce said. Cornered men bite. Dana sipped her tea. Then we don't get close enough to be bitten. Zack rubbed his temples. We just keep her safe until the hearing. Adam leaned back in his chair. You think he'll come here? Zack's eyes hardened. I think he'll try something that'll make us wish he hadn't. Meanwhile, Laura sat in the corner office-turned-bedroom watching Mia sleep. Her bruises had faded, but her nightmares had not. She thought of all the women she had cleaned beside in rich buildings, women who whispered about men like Connor but never spoke too loud. God, she prayed quietly, don't let this fear swallow me. She opened her phone and scrolled through messages from unknown numbers, threats, insults, offers of hush money. She deleted each one, then whispered, I won't sell my peace. The next morning, Rachel burst into the garage, papers in hand. He's trying to spin the story again, she said breathlessly. He hired influencers to call Laura a fraud. They're saying you faked the bruises and the footage was edited. Laura's knees nearly gave way. Edited? How can people believe that? Because people believe what's loud, Rachel said. We'll make the truth louder. Zack stood. What do we need? Public testimony, Rachel replied. The other employees. If we can get at least one person who worked under him to speak, it strengthens our case. Dana frowned. That's risky. People are scared of him. So were we, Zack said. Until we weren't. That evening, Laura went to church for the first time in months. The old pastor greeted her warmly, unaware of her story but sensing her exhaustion. The choir sang a hymn about faith outlasting storms. She wept quietly in the last pew, whispering, Lord, I'm tired of being brave. Just give me peace. As she prayed, a soft hand touched her shoulder. Ms. Reed. She turned. A woman stood there, tall, middle-aged, her eyes red from tears. You don't know me, she said. I used to work for Mr. Hale. I saw what he did to you on the news. He did the same to me 5 years ago. Laura's heart raced. You left. No, the woman said bitterly. He paid me to keep quiet. But seeing you stand up, I can't live with my silence anymore. She handed Laura a small USB drive. Everything's on here. Emails, recordings, security logs. I kept copies in case he came after me again. Laura clutched the drive like it was treasure. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for being brave. You were brave first, the woman said and walked away before Laura could ask her name. When she returned to the garage, Zack and Rachel were waiting. She handed the drive to Rachel. This might be what we need. Rachel plugged it into her laptop and began scrolling. Within minutes, her eyes widened. My God, she breathed. This is gold. Voice memos, audio of him threatening her, dates, timestamps. It proves a pattern of abuse. Zack's jaw tightened. Then we go public. Carefully, Rachel said. We do it legally. I'll file it as evidence tomorrow. But news travels faster than good intentions. Someone in the courthouse leaked the motion before it was filed. By morning, every major outlet had picked up the story. Hale Empire under federal investigation. Connor saw the news on his penthouse screen and smashed his coffee mug against the wall. She's destroying me, he bellowed. His assistant tried to calm him. Sir, maybe step back, apologize publicly. Apologize? He hissed. To her? He paced, eyes wild. No. I'll end her before she ends me. That same day, a black SUV began following Zack's bike whenever he left the garage. He noticed it twice in the rear mirror, unmarked, tinted windows. He didn't tell Laura at first, he didn't want her afraid. But that night, as he stood on the roof of the garage watching the city lights flicker, he whispered to himself, he's planning something. I can feel it. At midnight, a loud knock rattled the garage door. Everyone jumped. Bruce grabbed a wrench. Adam reached for the light switch. Who is it? Zack called out. Delivery, a voice replied. Zack frowned. At midnight? He pulled the door open an inch, and a rock flew through, shattering a lamp. A note was tied to it. In red ink, you can't protect her forever. Laura flinched when she saw it. Mia woke, frightened by the noise. What happened, Mommy? Nothing, baby, Laura said, forcing calm. Just a broken light. But her hands shook as she held the note. Zack met her eyes. He's trying to scare you. It's working, she whispered. The next morning, Officer Lane arrived early, scanning the street. We've got patrols running around your block now, he said. You're safe here, but don't leave alone. He hesitated before adding, Connor's been calling in favors. He's trying to intimidate witnesses. Laura closed her eyes. He won't stop, will he? Not until he loses everything, Zack said grimly. And that's exactly what's coming. 2 days later, Rachel filed the final motion, complete with the USB drive evidence. The judge scheduled the final hearing. Reporters gathered outside, cameras flashing. Laura walked in holding Mia's small hand, her steps steady despite the fear. When they entered the courtroom, Connor was already there, eyes cold, his smile thin. He leaned toward his lawyer. Let her cry, he muttered. Let her look weak. But Laura didn't cry. Not this time. She stood tall, voice steady, and said before the court, I came here to work, not to be broken. I'm not what he says I am. I'm a mother. I'm a woman who deserves respect. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. Rachel smiled proudly. Then she played the recordings, Connor's voice, angry and unmistakable, threatening, insulting, laughing cruelly. The air in the room turned heavy. Connor's lawyer stammered. These could be edited. They're verified, Rachel said sharply. Digital forensics confirmed. Connor's mask cracked. He slammed his hand on the table. You're all liars, he shouted. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Hale, control yourself or I'll hold you in contempt. He fell silent, chest heaving. The trial recessed for the day, but everyone knew the tide had turned. As they walked out, reporters crowded the steps. Laura shielded Mia from the flashes, and Zack guided them toward his bike. You did it, he said softly. You didn't break. Laura smiled faintly, eyes glistening. No, she whispered. God didn't let me. That night, the riders gathered again, laughter cautious but hopeful. They shared bread and tea and small stories about second chances. When this is over, Bruce said, we'll celebrate proper. When it's over, Zack echoed. But as he looked toward the window, his eyes caught movement outside, a figure watching from across the street. The same SUV. He stood abruptly. Stay with them, he told Dana, grabbing his helmet. Where are you going? She asked. To make sure ghosts can't follow us home. He stepped out into the night, engines growling, headlights slicing the dark. The SUV pulled away slowly, tauntingly. He followed, his heart a drum in his chest. The chase wound through empty streets, past shuttered stores and blinking lights. Finally, the SUV stopped near the bridge. The driver stepped out. It was one of Connor's men, the same who had come to Laura's door. He said to give you a message, the man sneered. He doesn't forgive. Tell him I don't care, Zack said. The man laughed. You should. Because he's not after you anymore. He's after the kid. The words hit Zack like a blade. What did you say? But the man only smiled and got back into the car. The SUV sped off into the night, leaving Zack standing on the bridge with the cold wind clawing at his jacket. He pulled out his phone, heart hammering. Dana, lock the doors, he shouted. Don't let anyone near that kid. Back at the garage, the lights flickered again. Mia, half asleep on the couch, stirred at the sound of tires screeching outside. A shadow moved past the window, slow and deliberate. Laura froze. Mia, get under the table, she whispered. Dana grabbed her wrench again, heart pounding. And before anyone could breathe, a loud crash shattered the glass door. The storm had finally arrived. Glass rained across the garage floor like sharp rain as the front door burst open. The sound was deafening, metal clanging, wood splintering, the startled scream of Mia echoing through the room. Laura grabbed her daughter and pulled her behind the workbench, heart pounding so hard she could barely think. "Stay down, baby. Don't move," she whispered. Dana ducked low, clutching a wrench, eyes darting toward the shadows outside. Two dark figures stepped in, faces covered, flashlights cutting through the dust. "Check the back," one barked. The boss said get the kid. Laura's blood froze. She pressed Mia closer, trembling. The smaller of the intruders swung his flashlight toward the office door, scanning shelves and bikes. He kicked over a stool. "No one here," he shouted. "She's hiding." The taller one snarled. "Then find her." Outside, Zack's engine roared as he tore back toward the garage, his phone pressed to his ear. "Pick up, Dana. Come on, pick up." No answer. He gunned the throttle, the tires biting the road. "Hold on," he muttered. "Just hold on." Inside, the light beam landed on the workbench. Laura squeezed her eyes shut, whispering prayers beneath her breath. "Lord, please, please." A hand grabbed the edge of the bench, dragging it aside with a screech. "Found them," the man shouted. But before he could reach, Dana leapt from the side, swinging her wrench with all her strength. The metal hit his shoulder with a crack. He yelled, stumbling backward. Laura grabbed the nearest thing, a box of screws, and hurled it at the other man's face. Screws scattered like silver hail. The taller intruder cursed and lunged forward, but the sound of an engine roared so loud it drowned everything. The garage door rattled, then exploded inward as Zack's motorcycle burst through, headlight blazing. He skidded to a stop between the attackers and the women, fury in his eyes. "You picked the wrong house," he growled. The men tried to retreat, but Bruce and Adam came in from the side door, blocking the exit. "You thought she'd be alone?" Bruce barked. The intruders froze. The next moments were chaos, quick, violent, raw. Zack swung first, one clean punch that sent the taller man crashing into a tool shelf. Bruce grabbed the other by his collar and threw him against the wall. "Who sent you?" Zack shouted. "Who?" The man spat blood and sneered. "You already know. The boss doesn't lose." Zack's voice was low and dark. "He just did." Sirens wailed in the distance. The men scrambled for the back door, but Officer Lane's cruiser skidded into the alley, lights flashing blue against the garage walls. Within seconds the officers had them pinned. Lane ran in, weapon drawn. "Everyone okay?" he shouted. Laura nodded shakily, clutching Mia. "We're okay," she whispered. "We're okay." Zack exhaled hard, running a hand over his face. That was too close. Lane glanced at the cuffed men. "They'll talk," he said grimly. Hale just crossed the line from intimidation to kidnapping attempt. "He's finished." The men were dragged away, spitting curses that no one listened to. Laura sat on the cold floor, holding Mia's trembling body, whispering soft words to calm her. Dana brought her a blanket. Zack crouched beside them, his eyes full of worry and anger. "He won't touch you again," he said quietly. "I swear it." The following morning, the city woke to chaos. Every major outlet carried the story: billionaire Connor Hale under arrest for orchestrating attack on witness. The footage, courtesy of Officer Lane's body cam, showed the men confessing under interrogation, naming Hale as the one who ordered the assault. The public turned overnight. Where once there had been whispers, now there was outrage. People flooded comment sections and news feeds. "Protect that woman. Justice for Laura Reed. No one is above the law." At the courthouse, the crowd gathered long before the hearing began. Protesters held signs: "Stop the abuse, justice for workers, stand for the truth." Inside, the tension was electric. Connor sat in the defendant's chair, eyes hollow, hair unkempt. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollow fury that even his wealth couldn't mask. Rachel stood tall beside Laura, her confidence unshaken. "This is the end," she whispered. Laura nodded, clutching Mia's hand. When the judge entered, silence fell. Cameras flashed once, then stopped. "Mr. Hale," the judge said firmly, "you stand accused of multiple counts of assault, intimidation, and conspiracy. Evidence includes recordings, witness statements, and last night's attempted abduction connected directly to you. Do you understand the charges?" Connor's voice cracked. "I'm innocent." "The evidence says otherwise," the judge replied coldly. "Do you have anything to say before sentencing?" Connor's lips quivered. "She ruined me," he hissed. "She?" "No, sir," the judge interrupted. "You ruined yourself." The gavel struck. 15 years in state prison without parole. A murmur rippled through the room. Laura covered her mouth, tears streaming silently. Mia looked up at her. "Mommy, is the bad man going away?" "Yes, baby," Laura whispered. "He's gone." Zack put a steady hand on her shoulder. "It's over." But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhale after drowning. Outside the courthouse, cameras surrounded them again, but this time they weren't chasing scandal. They were chasing hope. "Ms. Reed," a reporter called out, "what do you want to say to women who are afraid to speak up?" Laura blinked away tears, holding Mia close. "Don't let fear make you small," she said softly. "Even if you whisper the truth. Someone will hear you." The crowd erupted in applause. Officer Lane smiled from the steps. Rachel wiped her eyes. Zack lifted Mia onto his shoulders, and she waved shyly at the cheering people. For the first time in a long time, Laura saw light not as something distant, but as something touching her skin. Weeks passed. The garage became a second home, not just for repairs but for people. Women came with stories, men came to volunteer, neighbors brought food. They turned the empty lot beside it into Hope Haven, a small community center for families needing safety or support. Laura helped paint the sign, blue letters on whitewood. Mia ran around, giggling, wearing a helmet too big for her head. "Mommy, can we make pancakes for everyone?" she asked. "We can try," Laura laughed. Zack came up behind them with a toolbox. "I'll build you the biggest kitchen," he said. Underneath the laughter, something gentle bloomed between them, something unspoken but real. At night, when the work was done, they'd sit outside watching the city glow. "You ever think about leaving?" Laura asked one evening. Zack shrugged. "Used to. But now, this feels like the place I'm supposed to be." "Even after all the danger?" she teased. He smiled faintly. "Especially because of it." Mia appeared at the door holding her drawing book. "Uncle Zack, I made you something." She handed him a picture, 3 stick figures holding hands standing under a big yellow sun. "That's me, Mommy, and you," she said proudly. "And that's our house with all the bikes." Zack grinned. "You're quite the artist, kid." "I'm gonna paint it big one day," she said. "On the wall so everyone knows we're happy now." Laura's eyes filled again, but this time the tears were soft. "Thank you," she whispered to Zack. "For everything." "You don't owe me thanks," he said quietly. "You fought your way out of darkness. I just made sure the light stayed on." Months later, as the sun set behind the garage, Laura stood by the door, watching families come and go from the new Hope Haven. There were laughter, clinking cups, and children's voices. She felt peace deep in her bones, the kind that doesn't depend on safety but on faith. She remembered every night she had prayed for one good day, and realized God hadn't just given her one. He had given her a whole new life. When Zack came out wiping grease from his hands, she turned to him with a smile. "You think people like us ever stop fighting?" He looked at her for a long moment, then said softly, "No. But we learn to fight the right battles, with love instead of fear." She nodded, her heart swelling. "Then that's what I'll do." The camera of the world had finally turned away, but for Laura and Mia, the real story had just begun. A story of healing, faith, and the power of kindness that can change even the hardest hearts. Somewhere in a prison cell, Connor Hale sat alone, staring at a blank wall, haunted by the one woman he couldn't break. But out here, under the orange sky, Laura Reed held her daughter's hand and walked forward into tomorrow, free at last. As the screen fades to black, her voice echoes softly. "When life beats you down, stand up, not for revenge but for freedom. Because faith isn't about avoiding storms, it's about learning to dance in the rain." Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share this story if it touched your heart. Together we can make kindness go viral.